All right, so I was looking at some of your IA documents. It came clear to me that we need to review independent manipulated variables and dependent responding variables, what those mean. Oh, you take that headphone out. Yeah, I could tell we needed a little freshen up with that. So what I want you to do is look at this data table. This is from an IB student's internal assessment. And look at it and tell me, I even put the research question there. Tell me what the independent variable is and what the dependent variable is for that experiment. Okay? And then trials are important. You want to have a lot of trials so you can, all experiments need many, many trials. So look at that data table and tell me how many trials they did. And then for mindfulness, I want you to tell me what's the best movie ever made. Okay? The best. And then tell me why. And then I'll try to figure out what mine is, and I'll tell you in a minute. Okay? Best movie ever made. The best of the best. If you're going to tell me, oh, I can't decide, well, decide one of your favorites. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow, right? Yeah, we got to. Yeah, it's just a week away. The biggest party of the year, guys. The biggest party. Oh, we need to make, yeah, poster. We should have a backdrop, and we need tickets. We need to make, I think I'm out of wristbands, but maybe. We have physical tickets? Paper tickets? Like those tickets? Where do we get those? Oh, dang. Yeah, you do. Oh. Oh. You guys, can you read that data table okay? Sorry. Oh, that's easier? I'll leave it here for a second, and then I'll switch it to that bigger one, okay? Oh, dang, Jennifer. Found it. All right, I'm going to flip it to the, you guys all have the basics. Take a picture if you need it. There. Independent and dependent variables. Mm. Mm. All right, let's see. Diana, what is the independent variable? What are they changing? What are they manipulating? Yeah, they're changing. See how they have this different grades, different concentration of vitamin C? So yes, that's the independent variable. Vitamin C concentration. Okay. And a lot of you, like especially I can think of, you know, the ones that are doing plant studies, you're going to choose something to add and maybe change make different concentrations of that substance, like increasing and seeing how it affects the growth of the plants. So that's independent variable. The dependent variable, let's go to Marcos. What do you think the dependent variable is? What? Yeah, the hydrogen peroxide. How are they measuring? That's a gas, right? So how are they measuring the gas amount? That's kind of hard to measure a gas, right? How are they doing it? The froth that was coming up. The more froth, the more gas they assumed was being created. Is that a good assumption? The more bubbles are coming up, the more froth, the more gas. You know, that's a reasonable thing to do. So they were just measuring how much froth there was. So that was the volume of froth. Yeah. Oh, well, let's go back to here. So independent variable. So that would be, right, oops. Oh, that's a different one. Vitamin C concentration. Oh, that's pretty good handwriting, which is right here, all right? All these different concentrations. And the dependent would be volume which is basically gas production, which is right here. Volume of froth. Okay? All right. How many trials were performed, Valeria? 5. Okay, yeah. We see trial 1 beginning and after through trial 5. Okay? How many total trials? 30. Yeah, how'd you figure that out, Kenny? Yeah. 6 levels, and then 5. So that's 30 total. So that's, that's a lot of trials. That's decent. You wouldn't have to do more than that. The thing that I like about this is that they did do a lot of different levels here. Okay, they didn't have to do this many levels, right? They could have done maybe 3 or 4. They have 6. That's pretty good. And having 5 trials for each, that's within the scope of what you have time to do and, what we need to do with this experiment. Okay. All right, best movie ever made. I don't know, for me, a movie I can watch that I really like. Well, a recent one would be Pop Star. Have you guys heard of that movie? Pop Star is kind of a it's a kind of parody film about like a Justin Bieber type pop music star, and it's just kind of some comedy. Anyways, it's really funny, and I can watch it. And also the movie Talladega Nights. Have you seen that? Heard of that movie? Gosh, you guys, we watch different movies, don't we? But that's great. So let me hear some of your movies. Can I get a volunteer? Oh, Marcos, thank you. Ooh, Star Wars Episode 3. What's the best thing about that? Yeah. Yeah, my kids really like that one, especially 3. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Valeria. Home Alone. Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah. What do you really like about Home Alone? What is it that really gets you? Just don't get tired of it. Watch it a lot. We still laugh. Okay. It's still funny. Well done. Sign of a good movie. Okay. Thank you, Valeria. All right. Another person. Diana. Princess and the Frog. Ooh, very good. Animated, classic, Princess and the Frog. All right. What do you like about it? Oh, the soundtrack's big, right? Soundtrack's good for Home Alone, too. Okay. In fact, I should probably get that soundtrack. I think I can get it. Emily, what's your favorite? You don't know? You want to share a favorite movie? No? All right. Madeline, time to wake up. Encanto, okay. That's a lot of music too, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a theme. Okay. Alondra, what's your favorite, Alondra? Oh, Hocus Pocus. Bette Midler, that's the Halloween one, right? Dang, all right. What do you like about it? What? Oh, good help. Get you in that Halloween mindset. Okay. Thank you. Jennifer. Rush Hour. Oh, very funny. Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker. Yeah, that movie, it was real. There's a lot of buddy cop movies out there, kind of. But that one really did a great job. The comedy aspect of that, I would say it was a very unique movie. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, very funny actors, have really great strengths coming together. That was really a good movie. Yeah. A movie kind of similar to that, I guess, well, not really. What kind of? Men in Black, the first Men in Black, when it came out, I didn't really, it wasn't really high expectations, but this is really funny. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, really good actors, but different actors coming together in the comedy, and have all the space alien stuff, which is kind of funny in itself, It was a good combination. It was a good movie, gotta say. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing some of your favorites. What I want to do is do an activity about drugs. You guys want to learn about some drugs? Okay. Have you guys learned about drugs? Have you had anti-drug education in your schooling? Don't do it, Diana. They say, don't do it. Don't do it. Let me say this. What's the most commonly abused drug in our society, our culture? What's that? Marijuana? It's getting more used, but there's another drug that's used more, that's been legal forever, save for a few years, that really causes a lot of damage. It's everywhere. And it's legal depending. Oh, ibuprofen. Diana, you got some ibuprofen in there? Diana? No. Maybe somebody said it and I didn't hear it, which if you did, I'm sorry. Very common. Crack. Alcohol. Yeah, alcohol causes the most destruction, broken lives, issues, and it's legal if you are 21 or over. And is it part of our culture ingrained? Yeah, like going to parties. You don't, hopefully, but do adults have parties without alcohol usually? Almost never. It would be weird to go to an adult party and there's not wine or beer available, right? What's that? Yeah. So in a lot of, it's so many cultures, and I was just kind of surprised in Europe. Is there more problem drinking in Europe or in the United States? Because Europeans are, at least the cultural understanding for most Americans, oh, they're sophisticated, they drink when they're younger and they don't have an issue. But a lot of European countries do have a real problem with, it's pretty intense alcohol, use. And when you go to college, when you go to that environment, there will be alcohol abuse all around you. Doesn't matter. You've heard of party schools, right? Well, every school is a party school. Doesn't matter what group you're in. You're with, the business majors kind of have a reputation for being, bigger partiers, but the engineering, the biology, the history, in any major group and people, you're going to have people drinking. You're going to go see that, and you're going to confront it yourself. Hopefully in high school you haven't, been, peer pressured to use and abuse alcohol, but the earlier you start using alcohol, the more likely that you will have an issue not using or abusing alcohol later on down the line. So just be aware of that. A lot of parents, and I'm facing that right now because I have a freshman in college and a sophomore. A lot of parents, my parent group, have been introducing alcohol in the home to their kids. And I don't think it's a really good idea myself. Especially, and I've noticed this, when the older kid kind of starts using alcohol, guess what happens with the siblings? They're going to start using it. It's like your older brother, 2-3 years older, or sister, they're drinking at home around the house casually. It's going to be filtering down to that younger kid. It's like a freshman or maybe an 8th grader I've seen. I'm like, oh, that's too early. It really is. And I respect different families have different ideas about alcohol use and what's acceptable, what's normal. But as I said before, the earlier you first start using any kind of substance, the more likely it is. The numbers are just staggering. The increase in likelihood that you will have an issue later on if you start younger. And you have people, people in your life that have really struggled with substance abuse, right? Probably. I have in my family. I'm sure you have too, especially alcohol, because it's so common. But it's a serious drug, and you should, try to stay away from it as long as you can. As long as you can. Be that person It's just gonna, and it's tough socially to do that, you know, because it is ingrained in a lot of culture groups, you know, making friends and stuff. But just be aware of that. The earlier you start, the harder it is to stop. Okay. So we're going to learn about what that actually does to your brain. Why it's so difficult to stop using these drugs? Because, in short, drugs make you feel what? Make you feel good, make you feel happy, and we all want to feel happy, right? We have a very powerful drive to want to feel happy, and drugs are really good at doing it. Sometimes, on a short-term basis, a lot more effective than other things. Like, what are some things that you can do to feel happy that are healthy for you? Sleeping. Well, does sleeping make you feel happy? Does sleeping a lot make you feel happy? For me, it kind of makes me feel depressed if I sleep too much. If I sleep too much, I feel like what happened? and it can kind of make you hide from things, right? You just go to sleep. You kind of. But what I've always found, sometimes I take a nap when I don't want to do something, but then I kind of feel guilty later, and then I gotta do it anyway. But if I go for a walk or a run or I exercise, I almost never feel bad, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I feel good, okay? So finding those activities that make you feel good, that you get that happiness, doing some kind of coloring, doing some kind of craft, talking with friends, you know, try to find those things that you know you can do that are easy to do that make you happy. These mice got some good jams. Okay, so you guys have your sheets, right? Turn it down a little bit. All right. So take a look. I think, do you guys have a... Yeah, let's start with heroin. Okay? Heroin. No, Valeria, no! We're not celebrating heroin. Okay? Which mouse is on heroin, do you think? Which brown one? The one over here? That's ecstasy. The one on the couch? Yes. Heroin makes you do that. It makes you basically go to sleep. It's called the nod. People on heroin. Okay. Sorry, that was... No mice were harmed. Don't worry.
Before heroin enters the system, inhibitory neurotransmitters are active in the synapse. These neurotransmitters inhibit dopamine from being released.
All right, so we got to fill out the neurotransmitters involved. So what do we see here? Well, that's a receptor, but what do we... So inhibitory neurotransmitter, these little triangles, so write that one down. And what's the other one? Dopamine. So write down inhibitory neurotransmitter, dopamine. So the inhibitory stops the release of dopamine. Okay, it keeps the dopamine from getting released. Okay. Oh, and that's, you guys understand where it says synapse? Where are we talking about here? Well, we just saw the close-up. This is a close-up of the mouse's, what part of the body? The brain. Okay. So the synapses, you guys know what a synapse is? Well, it's it kind of is a connector, but it's, let me write that. Remember how, I'll try to draw. This is a neuron. Those are the dendrites. So you have the signals coming in. Make it a little more. That. And you saw in the microscope those little neurons. They were purple, and they had little little things coming from them. Those were the dendrites, and then there's usually a thicker one, and that's called an axon. So the signals come in all through the dendrites, and then move through the axon until they get to here, and then they have to jump a gap in order to go to the next axon. So this gap right here, where there's fluids and other sorts of molecules, this is the synapse. So all drugs that you take usually affect what goes on at this synapse. Either it makes the signal go faster or it blocks the signal. You've heard of like antidepressants, right? They work really big in the synapse. They block the reuptake of dopamine, so people are depressed, and it's really complicated chemically in the brain. But these receptor inhibitors, or these uptake inhibitors, allow for that dopamine to stay there longer, and then people seem to feel better. But everybody's a little different. That's why there's like 20 different antidepressants. They always got to fine-tune what works best for whichever person. Oh, and then I guess to maybe make a quick note about mental health, just try to be open if you feel yourself like changing. Because when I graduated, I thought, oh, I knew myself, right? I'm 18, I'm who I am, I'm not going to change. But no, you do change. So when I look back on myself throughout college, at the end of college, I felt, if I was really more aware, I should have known I was kind of feeling depressed now more than I would normally do. I wouldn't want to ride my bike or something, and that's not normal for me. So I should have maybe talked to somebody, right? Or gotten some help. But in our culture, that's kind of hard to do for people, right? But don't, have that happen to you if you feel yourself changing from now. Because a lot of you guys are 18, and I know how it felt. I know me, but you don't really. You're still going to change and develop over the next 5, 6, 7 years. And throughout your life, things change. So, anyway, that was a side note. So it's all about this synapse, this little gap, which we're going to focus on here. All right. There we go.
When the body's natural opiates activate opiate receptors, the release of inhibitory neurotransmitters is shut down. Without inhibition, dopamine can be released.
So what does your body have in it already? You got natural heroin right now. What do you think about that, Kenny? You feeling that natural heroin? So what that does, it blocks those inhibitory neurotransmitters so the dopamine can come out, okay? And our bodies have this mechanism for a lot of reasons, but one of them, if you become horrifically injured, you probably heard this, you don't feel the pain right away sometimes, right? Because your body has that protective, you're in shock, it'll block the pain, but then later on, you will feel the pain. Your native opiate will dissipate. And that's the thing, your native stuff tends not to last as long as some of the man-made, the synthetic stuff that we take, or the drugs that people take. It's more powerful than your natural opiates. Okay?
Heroin mimics natural opiates and binds to opiate receptors, turning off dopamine inhibition. Dopamine is allowed to flood the synapse, producing immediate feelings of sedation and well-being.
It makes you go to sleep. Just kind of chill. So, see where it says action of the drug? What's the action of the drug? It mimics natural heroin, fits right into the opiate receptor, and blocks the inhibitory neurotransmitter. So you can paraphrase that in that box best you can. It mimics your natural opiate, blocks the inhibitory neurotransmitter, and then you get more dopamine in the synapse. So many of these drugs act this way in different complicated ways, but the end effect is typically more dopamine out in the synapse. More dopamine. So just more dopamine in there, and you're going to be feeling happier and feeling sedated. And I'm not an expert, but I believe heroin is mostly taken through injection. So that also makes it act faster, and also greatly increases the risk, right, to getting other diseases. Hepatitis C being probably the biggest issue, as well as HIV. So, see in that box, it already has a nice little diagram, okay? So you don't have to do anything with that, all right? Okay. Are we good with our description? What drug you guys want to do next? What are you curious about? You want to do some marijuana? See how Mary Jane works? Okay. How many different words are there for marijuana? Too many. Marijuana, Mary Jane, weed, cannabis, hemp. Huh? Devil's lettuce. I told you that one, right? That was from some movie. What? Anything else? Devil's lettuce. I can't believe you remembered that. What else? Are there some more? Mota? Mota? What does that mean in Spanish? Weed? Oh, just weed. Like if you had weeds in your yard, you say, "Oh, go pull the motas." Okay. Any others? Pot. Yeah, pot. 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 You know all of them now. Any more? Pot. I forgot that one. Smoke pot. Marijuana smoke. Okay. All right.
Neurons with opiate receptors are in parts of the brain responsible for the transmission of pain signals, stress response, and emotional attachment. Our body's opiates are natural painkillers, effective when we have sustained massive injury. This is why morphine, a drug related to heroin, is used as a painkiller.
Yeah, I think that's what they give to in the hospital setting. People with massive trauma, it's kind of some kind of morphine. All right, which one's smoking pot? Oh yeah, the one with the joint, right? Smoking that mota. I shouldn't say that.
Before marijuana
I get fired
enters
for
the
that?
system, inhibitory neurotransmitters are active in the synapse. These neurotransmitters inhibit dopamine from being released.
So what are we dealing with? Same ones. It's the same ones. It's the same ones. So when people say, "Oh, weed, it's no problem. It's natural." What can you say? It's a re-education. You say it works. You can say it works. It's very similar to heroin. Because would anybody say heroin's not a problem? If somebody's using heroin, you automatically know that's a problem, right? These days, if somebody's using, marijuana or alcohol, oh, that's just their lifestyle. But heroin is not a lifestyle you want to have. But remember, all these things can, especially common, people say marijuana is not a problem, right? I've had a lot of discussions with students about that, who say that they can smoke it just fine, their parents are okay with it, and I'm like, whether or not they're lying, I don't know about the parent thing, but they might not be, because probably parents are smoking it, right? And just like alcohol, they think, oh, the kid, like a lot of kids think you can smoke marijuana anytime, whenever, but remember, it's just like alcohol. You have to be 21 to legally use it, not 18. Okay, so we have our inhibitory and dopamine.
When activated by the body's own native cannabinoid, called anandamide, Cannabinoid receptors turn off the release of inhibitory neurotransmitters. Without inhibition, dopamine can be released.
All right, so you have natural what? Natural weed in your brain, natural cannabis. It then shuts off the inhibitory neurotransmitters and floods the dopamine. Okay? So,
THC, the active chemical in marijuana, mimics anandamide and binds to cannabinoid receptors. Inhibition is turned off and dopamine is allowed to squirt into the synapse.
all right, so the same exact mechanism as heroin. Okay? So write that down for action, binds to those cannabinoid receptors, inhibits inhibitory neurotransmitters, more dopamine in the synapse. And you think, people using heroin, they tend to be just kind of off in their own world. That can also be true with a lot of people when they're using marijuana. They tend to be relaxed, tend to not be, as social, and just kind of hang out, smoke weed. So it kind of gets that sedation effect, which is also, by the way, used as a positive, right? In terms of people saying it helps them relax, right? With pain management, which, yeah, so does heroin, so does morphine. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same product. Like it used to be a big deal because that was legal, right? If you had a prescription. So I don't know what it really means these days. Maybe it's higher quality. I don't know, or more expensive. That's a good question. I really don't know. Like, you don't need a prescription anymore. But I don't know, maybe if you're 18, like your age, maybe you could get a doctor prescription for it and use it legally? That's a good question. I have no idea. So maybe an 18-year-old could use it legally. Because I'm not sure what the law was like before. Because any prescription drug, your doctor prescribes it, you can legally use it, right? Like if you're a younger kid and if you're 18 or 19, you could have some dental work you might need some oxycodone for, right? You could have some really big injury where you need a surgery, where you need some serious painkiller. So they might give you that. And that's a pretty powerful drug. So, yeah, I don't know. Something to find out. All right, so in the little box, go ahead and draw. You don't have to draw everything in there. Like, don't draw every single thing. Just draw maybe one of these dopamine vesicles. Draw maybe one or two of these receptors. Okay, just draw a little sketch. Truncated, shortened sketch of what you see there. And it should be pretty similar to the heroin. I believe it'll be on the next slide before it leaves marijuana, but I think the mechanism, because we know that heroin, your natural opiates, help with pain control, right? When you have a big injury, I think this helps you forget things that are painful that you don't want to remember. That's why marijuana, people that use a lot of marijuana can have issues with memory, short-term memory loss, which is something you really don't want to have. Do you want to have any memory loss when you're your age? No. Just think about that. Memory loss. No. You want to be able to remember stuff. Maybe 30 seconds, let's move on. If you need to take a picture of that, go ahead. What drug, you guys, so we got marijuana and heroin. What drug you want to do next? You want ecstasy? Okay. What do you know about ecstasy? Nothing? Come, oh really? Never heard about it. When I think of ecstasy, I think of, rave parties and dances. I think of issues in the past where people have died from like dehydration from ecstasy use. I think it really affects electrolyte balance in the body, and that can put you at risk for dehydration. Those are my...
Anandamide is known to be involved in removing unnecessary short-term memories. It is also responsible for slowing down movement, making us feel relaxed and calm. Unlike THC, anandamide breaks down very quickly in the body. That explains why anandamide doesn't produce a perpetual natural high.
So we know the ecstasy one, right? The dancer, the party raver. That's just kind of funny. Dedicate their bodies to science, these mice. They don't want to take these drugs.
Serotonin transporters are responsible for removing serotonin molecules from the synaptic cleft after they have done their job.
All right, so dopamine is, so I didn't really say, in the synapse, you have neurotransmitters jump the gap. Neurotransmitters take the electrical signal, convert it into chemical signal, and then it goes across and gets reconverted back into a electrical signal. So our different neurotransmitters, serotonin is one of those big ones, as well as dopamine. Hold on, write that down. So NTs. And we have inhibitory. Just kind of keep a list. These are those molecules that are jumping the gap to do things. Okay. So what's the neurotransmitter involved? Serotonin. So this is a new one for us.
Ecstasy mimics serotonin and is taken up by serotonin transporters. In fact, ecstasy is more readily taken up than serotonin itself.
All right, so right now mimics serotonin, and the transporters take it up into the cell. So mimics serotonin taken up by serotonin transporters. It looks a lot like serotonin, so it brings it into the cell. Brings that ecstasy in. Anybody want to guess what happens next? They die? Well, maybe, but before that happens, you have that cell. You have a whole bunch of serotonin in there. You got all the ecstasy going in there, kind of jumbling up the works. What's that, Valeria? Makes them hyper? How? I mean, that happens. Guess that's okay.
This interaction with ecstasy alters the transporter. The transporter becomes temporarily confused and starts to do its job in reverse. The transporter starts transporting serotonin out of the cell.
All right, so this confuses the transporter, and the result is you have a lot of serotonin getting released from the cell into the synapse. So it confuses the transporter, serotonin gets pumped back out instead of pumped in. So you're basically, in effect, adding more serotonin into the synapse. So reverses the action of the serotonin transporter. Too much serotonin in there. And with those transporters, they can't bring the serotonin back in. So you're going to have a lot of serotonin stimulating the cell on the other side of the synapse. It's going to come into these receptors and just stimulate it. Which I think we'll show here.
The excess serotonin becomes trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, it binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell.
Okay, so that's, you can finish up writing, and that's the diagram you can do, showing that it's all about the serotonin being left in the synapse, overstimulating, just keep firing away, creating that signal. All right, you guys got it? What drug you want to do next? Cocaine. Classic, right? Can't go wrong.
Ecstasy affects serotonin pathways responsible for mood, sleep, perception, and appetite. Ecstasy also indirectly interacts with the reward pathway. The excess serotonin stimulates a milder release of dopamine along the reward pathway, giving ecstasy slightly addictive properties.
Which one's on cocaine? This one? Ooh, that's meth. Yeah, that's the one. Kind of fidgety, paranoid.
Dopamine transporters are responsible for removing dopamine molecules from the synaptic cleft after they have done their job.
All right, so what neurotransmitter? Dopamine. Dopamine.
Cocaine blocks these transporters, leaving dopamine trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, dopamine binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell.
All right, I think our simplest mechanism here just blocks the dopamine transporters, pure and simple, keeps that dopamine in the synapse, and that creates overstimulation, make people happy and happy and happy. That's how cocaine functions. And you can draw that. going to go ahead. We'll stop there for today with this. I want it. The rest of the time, I need you working on some kind of IA paper. Okay, one of the IA assignments. And I will come around and many of you, I put comments, responses, and some of the recent assignments. The best way to get ideas is to Google search IB biology IAs in your area, and you can get some good ideas. That's what I did to help fine tune what you're doing. So let's go ahead. Make sure you have this finished for cocaine, and then let's get to work on those IAs. Okay, and I'll come around and try to touch base with as many people as I can. We gotta get those off and running.